Okay, welcome everybody to a new moon, new year. Happy New Year. Happy Capricorn, new moon. And 222 and the number 6. Lots of positive signs, I think, coming in for this year to do with the numerology anyway. So I'm enthusiastic for the new year. And I drew a card from my Herbal Oracle deck. It came up as also being very innovative and very open this year for Witch School anyway. So lots of new things, hopefully. And hi, Freya. And so, yeah, very, very positive card for Witch School for this year as well. It was the Yarrows card. Okay, so if anybody joins in as we're going, I'll just let them in as we go. So get yourselves comfortable for the new moon rite and the meditation that's going to follow. If you want to light a candle, light a candle. Just make sure that you're physically comfortable. Just charging up a crystal here. Okay. And just to mute yourselves too, so there's no background noise. Great. Okay, and just closing your eyes. And we're just going to tune into our bodies to bring us back to ourselves. Remembering that the purpose of this rite is to come together and connect. And that in the magical world, the astral world, the quantum field, we are all together. We aren't that apart physically. We are actually sharing energy. There is no distance. And it might help if you just want to imagine that we are all physically together in a circle. And we're just going to connect with the ground, the earth beneath us, the heart of the earth, and drawing up some energy into our heart area from the earth. And then drawing in some energy from the sun, from the sky realms, into the heart area, feeling connected to the earth and to the heavens. And that our heart is like the central middle world, the earth and the lower world, heavens, the upper world. Connecting the two within ourselves. Balancing the within and the without. And just allowing the light to emanate from our hearts to surround us. Make or bring light into our hearts, into our hearing light and sight light. Into our right light and left light, before us light, behind us light, above us light, below us light. Making us one with the light, feeling the unity with each other. And on this dark moon night of the new moon, we practice the ancient rites. Hail to thee, Lady of the night sky. Hail to thee, Queen of the new moon, known by many names. We often work with you in your various aspects, and tonight we honor you. Tonight the tides shift. The new moon for a new year. Tonight a brand new phase begins. Endings, beginnings, ebbings and flowings. The cycle of contraction, expansion. And we honor the crone, we honor the maiden, and we bask in the safety of the night and the darkness. We sink into the depths of our true being. We begin again. We behold the Lady of Darkness, and we behold the Lady of Light. And we ask for the Queen of the Night to remove what no longer serves us. And for the Queen of the Light to gather in what helps us thrive. And to teach us all mysteries, spells, and magic. And more than anything, to guide us to our true selves. To guide us with love along our true paths. To be strong within so that we're strong without. We're just going to do a short path working. So just focusing on the breath, the breathing. Breathing in. And breathing out. Breathing in again. And breathing out. Breathing in. And breathing out. Just letting the breathing become slow, deep, and easy. And as we are in the time of the greatest dark, the dark of night, the dark of the sea, the dark of the womb, and just wrapping this darkness gently around us. Like a comfortable blanket. And as you're wrapped in this beautiful blanket of the darkness, just allow yourself to float gently in its depths. And just allow yourself to grow here, nourished by an invisible cord that connects you to the source of all life. And as you're floating gently in the dark, softly rocking in the dark, and although it is dark, you realize that what surrounds you isn't empty. But just like the womb, full of life. And just take a moment now to sense the swirling, nurturing energy of the dark. And as the energy increases, it gives birth to the smallest spark imaginable, the spark of new life. And see that spark now as it glows, watching the spark as it grows, glowing brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter as it grows into a flame. And as you look at this flame, its light fills you with warmth, with love. And as you feel this increased love and warmth within you, the visible intensity of the flame slowly diminishes. And as it does, in its place, slowly becoming visible, is the outline of a wrapped gift. And this gift becomes more solid until you can see its form very clearly. And you can see that it is wrapped in a glistening filament of light. This filament of light is beautiful and warm. The gift has your name on it, and it's inscribed in a very glistening material. Still from some distance, you can see your name now on this gift. And even if you are nearsighted and have no trouble making out the letters, for you, you now have perfect vision. Is your name written in a special color? Is the inscription special in some other way? So now you approach your wrapped present, now more closely. What shape is it? How big is it? And what color is its wrapping? You pick it up. Is it light? Heavy? And now you unwrap your gift. How easy or difficult is it to unwrap? You finish opening it now and you receive your gift. What is it? Look at it carefully. Experience it fully. Accept your gift. Feel your heart warm with the love with which this gift is given to you. And now from your heart, send out gratitude for this gift. Sending out thanks for this gift to the goddess, to our great mother, to the universe, both the dark and the light. And now, if you wish, you can find a place to keep this gift. A place to put this gift so that you can keep it. You can keep it with you if you wish. You can take it with you when you leave this place. It's up to you. You may not know what to do with this gift right now. It may become apparent later. It may be metaphorical. It might be something you may not know how to use for years from now. And as you bring your special gift with you, start to become aware of where you are right now, physical. Sense the sounds that are around you, the surface you're seated on. And how does this gift feel where you are now, back in the physical realm? Knowing that the gift is always there when you need it. You can even go back to meditate on it more at a later date. And this now coming back up to full awareness. Feeling the weight of the earth beneath you. Feeling the objects around you. Feeling your eyes begin to water as they begin to open. And when you're ready, open your eyes. I'm using sandalwood oil tonight for the offering. We thank you, Goddess, for your presence and blessings. We give thanks to all the spirits local to where we live and perform our rites. We give thanks to the God, our ancestors. May all be pleased and fulfilled. And if you want to have a drink of water or something to ground the energy. Okay, and you can unmute yourselves if you want to too.
Yes, that was very lovely. Thank you.
That's a nice one. Yeah, it's a nice one, that one.
Yeah.
They're all lovely.
I saw a lot of gold.
Yeah.
I did too. I saw gold.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And the gift that I got was a golden key. And that key opens the door to the Surf Lifesavers prize home that I've bought a ticket for. I'm an eternal optimist. I won't give up. It's a beach house.
Nice.
Best of luck. Good one. Yes.
But yeah, lots of gold and yes, shiny objects.
You might also win the gold bullion that they often have with those house raffles too.
Well, I saw the gold bullion, but I thought I won't tell you guys because it's all materialistic, but it certainly helps.
Well, you know, you gotta survive.
It's all gold. Go for gold.
Okay. Does anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah. Well, I saw I was gold as well, lots and lots of gold. But I couldn't figure out what I was seeing, and then I guess it dawned on me a little bit later. It was more like an energy ball. So yeah, I thought, well, that is something that I could use, that I definitely need and I could use. So yeah, I didn't quite realize at the time what I was seeing. I just thought, oh, I can't quite get this. But then yeah, a little bit later on, I realized it was an energy ball and just probably exactly what I needed right now.
Cool.
Yeah. I got my box was kind of heavy, and it was like a kind of a big square box, and it was gold and white stripe. The gold was glitter. And when I opened it, it had like that satin fabric on the inside, and it was like a crystal award, you know, that they give out to people who win awards. And it was crystal. It didn't say anything on it, but it was just this clear crystal award. And maybe I'll figure out what that means later, but yeah, it was a crystal award. It was kind of shaped like a teardrop. So have anything for that? I kept trying to like, no, it's something else. It's something else. And I just kept seeing this. It was like a spade or something, you know. So, you know, it was pretty. Well, like a work award or something, but you know.
Maybe it's like an acknowledgement of the effort that you're like, you know, the blood, sweat and tears, like the sort of an acknowledgement of effort or something, or some kind of a symbol of you putting in, you know, your blood, sweat and tears into something. I don't know. That's what I've got a feeling for.
Yeah. So that was my box.
Cool.
I can share. The box that I saw was about like 6 inches by 6 inches, and it was incredibly light. It just felt like the weight of the box, wrapped in like a shimmery green wrapping paper with silver and a bow. So I unwrapped the bow and then just lifted the lid off. And I also saw a ball of like golden yellow light, like just like a ball about like the size of like my fist, just sitting on a white pillow. And it was just golden white light. And the place to put that was just within my heart. And it's interesting, today was a very crazy energetic day, like with storms where I live. I'm right by the ocean, and it was like lightning just like super close by, and thunder that sounded like war. It just sounded like it was wild. And I don't even remember the last time I've heard a storm like that. So I just felt like the ball was kind of just like a culmination of the energy of the storm that was gifted to me.
Wow. Wow. Sounds great. Go Zeus.
And there's lots of storm energy across the world, because we Queenslanders are experiencing a cyclone at the moment. It's been downgraded, but it's close to Brisbane at the moment.
Yeah, it's that in Vedic astrology, Mars is Gandanta, which is finishing off the last degrees of a sign. Whenever Mars is in that position, often they can, of a water sign, because in Vedic astrology he's just leaving Scorpio and going into Sag, and so whenever he leaves a water sign, right at the very edge of the degree of leaving, he often will create watery weather, apparently. Yeah. Wild weather.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of energy in that weather, and I enjoy the energy of a storm. There's a lot you can do with storm energy too, if you want to harness that energy to really boost a spell or something. You can always use that storm energy.
A lot of people go out surfing because
Get the waves.
The main beach at Noosa on the Sunshine Coast, it's usually quite flat. But yes, people have been using longboards and going surfing there.
Get the waves when you can, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not always Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's a madhouse there at the moment. That my son-in-law, he does a lot of surfing and goes in the competitions, and Noosa is well known for the long rolling waves that come in, and especially with the longboards. And because those sets have been coming in really, really close together, it is just like showtime for everyone. So no one's going to work. Yeah, lucky holidays. Yeah.
It's too fun.
Yeah. I'm used to Noosa. When you work, you do work over the public holidays and such. That's how it goes when you're in tourism. Yeah, but people don't show up for work when the surf's on. Yeah.
Well, you've got to get it while you can. That's the whole working with nature thing. I kind of look at, people that do work a lot with surfing and how they work with the water and work with the waves. It's very, very connected to that energy of the ocean, particularly when the ocean is pulling those big waves, and it's quite dangerous. But there's this connection that they have with the water. It's quite amazing.
Yeah. A lot of them have aqua auras, blue aqua auras. They're really beautiful because they're always in the water all the time. Yeah.
Very cleansing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that salt water. Very cleansing.
I'm a little jealous of everyone. It's snowing here. Well, it snowed here in Colorado. So you guys are talking about the beach and waves, and it's just cold here. But what my gift was, it was very similar to Doe's, but it was more like a heart box, but made of crystal with a bit of that gold trim. And then also with the wrapping, it was like Kevin's paper. It was that green foil paper to unwrap. So I thought that was kind of interesting how a lot of similarities were there.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Can I
not
ask-
uncommon for similarities to occur in the group. I think too, because we're all focusing on the same thing and we are all basically attuned in the same space. Sometimes
Michelle,
we
did
can
you,
tune
Michelle,
into
did
each
your
other.
crystal have, Michelle, did your crystal have any writing on it?
No, nothing.
It was blank.
Mhm.
And Michelle,
I guess I should say your award.
Michelle, I know it's weather related, but I wanted to know how Colorado's doing, because apparently there were wildfires and now they've had blizzards and that put the fires out. So where was that, and whereabouts are you in Colorado?
Well, that was up in Superior, Louisville area where my daughter goes to school. And her dad's home is fine. A lot of her friends' homes were burned in that fire that was started by a generator. It was so dry here in Colorado. And it's unheard of that we didn't get any snow for, November, October. It starts usually in October, November, December, but it just snowed. And it's been so dry. We needed this moisture terribly. So I'm about 20 miles east of where those fires were. So, but their home is safe. And now they're just kind of wondering what they're going to do with kids to go back to school. So,
Yeah. Well, my heart goes out to everybody there, because
oh,
I love Colorado. I was in Denver for a year, and I taught at Skyview Elementary School in
yes,
Westminster.
yes.
And I spent a lot of time in Colorado Springs, was my favorite.
Mhm. Yes, Westminster is about maybe 5 miles from where the fires were. So
Oh,
I'm in Denver now, but I used to live up there.
wow. I better check out my friends then.
Yes, yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
But thank you so much for all your thoughts and prayers and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I really feel for the people.
I'll talk about mine a little bit anyway. There wasn't a gift that was wrapped, but there was a gift, okay? And it was a little bit confusing because I found myself back at my mother's funeral, and then I went further back from there. It's like I slipped into her childhood and I was observing her childhood. And I was seeing her at around 3 years old with a little three-wheeler red tricycle. And the colour on that was red, and it had gold writing on it. And the writing on it had my name on it, okay, with this gold writing. And I was thinking, couldn't have my name on it because I'm not even born at that time. And then I just went, okay, all right, let's just go along, let's follow this and let's see what's happening here. Apparently, it was all about mistakes of mothering that we make. No one's ever perfect. And through my mother at that age, I could see my grandmother and the type of parenting that she was doing. That little red bike my mother was a twin. They had to share that bike. But that bike was supposed to go to me when I was around that age. But somehow it didn't, okay, and would have been an old rusty thing by then anyway. But the thing is that the gift was coming from my grandmother's heart, that little bicycle. And the message is everyone tries their hardest. You've just got to take the good when you can and see through everything, see through the mistakes that you've made. And because everyone learns all along the line, and this is, about breaking generational, I'm going to call it habits that we've had. And yeah, it was really, I think it was really important for me. So it was a lovely meditation as far as that's concerned. I feel I've got some more stuff to do with that. So I don't know why I went on that path. And I feel like I separated a little bit from everyone there, or was that supposed to happen, or was, you know, what comes naturally, you know, it was supposed to come there and be there at this time. And so if I didn't sit down and follow the path working with you all, I wouldn't have actually seen that. So thank you very much. It was very deep.
It was deep, yeah.
Yeah.
I resonate with you, Freya, because when we're in the dark and there was the light that I saw was a little, again, golden, but it was a kidney bean. And it took me back to a dream I had many years ago when I'd lost my fertility. I don't have children, but the message in that was I was holding this golden kidney bean and I was in front of the line of women, and they overtook me until I was the last straggler, you know, hanging on to my kidney bean. Now, this dream has stayed with me for years, but obviously it was when the point when I lost my fertility, you know, menopause. So this being made a reappearance just in this path working where it was dark and what was the light object, and it was my little kidney bean. But it, you know, it metamorphed into a key, so to a house. So, but yeah, it was interesting because it was that birth idea and the seed, and from the seed grows something. Yeah.
It's interesting what the subconscious mind brings up and how connected it is to everything. It's amazing. It just knows how to connect imagery with everything. It's quite amazing. It's so expansive.
Yeah. And like with dreams, like I can't remember what I dreamt last night, but I will remember certain signature key dreams. There you go. I've just made the connection. Key dreams, which I can remember certain dreams from a teenager, you know, at pivotal points. So, and sometimes I was good and I wrote them down. But dreams like that, it always stays with me. I don't actually forget. So yeah, the key to my dreams. There you go.
Yeah. So it's how you're going to use that key, I guess. You can use that key in your magic.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. That's great. And I wanted to ask Freya, your beautiful covering behind you, is that it's the Southern Wheel? Is that right, Freya? The wheel behind you.
Yeah, it can be anything. Depends on which way you want to hang it. It hasn't got really, has it got dates on it? No, it hasn't. Yeah, that's good. No dates, so that was good, yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, I had the other one, the blue one up, and then I decided, oh no, that's on my lounge now.
Yeah,
So
it's beautiful, and it fits with the golden beam. That, yeah.
I thought it looked
Beautiful.
different.
Yeah.
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 Cool.
Okay.
When you talked about, I guess some of your dreams, when you talked reminding to that path working, was a more of a memory, I guess, a memory of me being in Japan, because I do martial arts, and so I was visiting the headquarters, I guess, of my style, and it was the farewell, and one of the head instructors came up and, you know, shook my hand and bowed to me, as they would normally formally do, and you'd bow back. And it was that moment in time that sort of was the entry into the path working for me, because it was at that moment that it was like it took a different turn, and I stopped, and the holding of the hand made me feel like there was a transference of energy, and it made me put my fingers out towards like the temple of the other person, just needing to transfer something. And I couldn't understand what that transference was, but it was this real need that I had to do that in order to communicate something. I had no idea sort of how that moved me through, but it moved me into, you know, the space to start to see this gift formation. But yeah, I just found it was interesting that, you know, some of those reflections do come up into your thoughts as you are working through some of these things, but then it has taken its own turn as to what that moment, I guess, can mean or can generate for you. So yeah, that was interesting too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's so many different angles that these path workings can take you. Like there's so many different layers and levels to these things. It's amazing. It's like another world. Okay, I was just going to go into some of the questions that came up the last fortnight, because there's some good ones about deities, and this one was about whether, like, when you're working, if you haven't found like a male counterpart to a goddess, do you necessarily need to always be working with the goddess and god? And if so, can the god energy be neutral? I know myself, as I've said, when I first started working in Wicca, I guess because I came from a Christian background, I don't know, but I worked with the goddess pretty much exclusively and pretty generically at first, and also with the god, but he was always just referred to as the god, and the goddess was referred to as the goddess. I struggled with trying to work with specific deities, but when it comes to working with a goddess, if you haven't found a particular god that you resonate with, then it's fine to just use the generic god, because it's still that masculine energy that you're working with. And as we say in Wicca, all goddesses are one goddess and all gods are one god anyway. So it's not necessary to try and force one. He'll come when he's ready. And if you do have a matron goddess, you don't necessarily need to have a patron god that goes with that goddess at all either. So you may find, some people may find that their patron deity or matron deity is either a god or a goddess. You may have a god and a goddess, but some people generally have one that's stronger for them than the other. So that will just depend on who that deity is, whether it's a goddess or whether it's a god. And if you are working with deities, if you do have a matron or a patron deity, if you do have space where you can have like a little altar that's especially dedicated to them, then that's always a nice thing to have. But if, of course, you can't, then you can't. But if you can, have a little altar. It may be a separate altar to the one that you use as your working altar. It just depends on what you've got available to you. And if you want to use any offerings or something regularly, then even just offering a little bowl of water once a day or once a week to your patron deity, even if you're not working with them, sometimes you won't necessarily be working with them for a while. Just at that water once a week seems to be enough to sort of keep that connection going. Does anybody want to, who's working with a matron or patron deity, want to talk about what you do?
Well, I'm just very interested in that you said that, Sandra, because I left a bowl of water out for Aphrodite and I've just got it right here. I'll quickly show you with some pink nannies. Yeah, I think I just do it intuitively, you know, just leave something from the local, you know, it's just from a local tree that's fallen to the ground. So yeah, definitely.
It could be a feather that you might want to leave
Yeah.
them, or it could be anything that you find that you want to put there on that altar. If you're working with quite a few different deities, I know that you can end up with deities all over the place. But if it's really just the one that you work with the most, or the one that you feel that you resonate with the most, is probably where you'd have your permanent altar to that deity. When it comes to working with different deities, I have an altar that is kind of my general altar. So I'll only have the deity that I'm working with present on that altar at a time, and then I'll move them if I'm working with another deity. So it's if you've got statues or pictures or anything that you're working with, then you can move them around when you're not working with them, and then just put them on your altar when you are working with them. And there's nothing wrong with having multiple altars either for different deities. It's not uncommon to have an altar here or there for different deities, but it depends again whether you've got room or not. You don't have to have altars. You might just have statues that you may keep somewhere and maybe put a few crystals around them when you're not working with them. Then there was the question, can I use the same altar as my patron deity, even if it is temporary, for another deity? I would, if the altar is temporary, I think that means, definitely. And leaving offerings, it depends on the offering. If it's water, I'll generally leave it there for a few days. You could even leave it there for a week and refresh it every week. If it's something that's more perishable, of course, you want to freshen it up before it goes off, if you're using food or something. Otherwise, you don't want it going rancid. Otherwise, if it's an offering that you've made because you've just done a working with them, and maybe you do have a temporary altar, like it's something you're going to have to put away, then just anywhere between leaving it there for maybe an hour. I mean, you can really get rid of your offering straight away after you've done the offering, but maybe leave it there for an hour at the minimum, and then you're good to then dispose of the offering. You can dispose of the offering unceremoniously. You don't have to go and put it into nature. If it's nature friendly, then certainly, if you can, put it in and give it back to the earth. But if not, it is still okay to put it in the garbage. Just you can just say, I'm now disposing of this offering unceremoniously, because the deities have finished with it. Does anybody else want to talk, have any questions about working with deities, or working with a patron deity, or working with multiple deities?
I feel a bit scared because I just work with the guides that with whoever shows up at that time, what goes through me. So on my working area, I actually have 3 going at the moment. I have one for the healing Buddha because of the Reiki and doing my Reiki healings. And I also sit in front of that and I do my readings because I view readings as healings. So I invoke the healing gods and goddesses to come in when I'm doing that. I also have Hecate. She comes in. I leave offerings. I actually live on a 3-way crossroads, and there is a light there, and there's an owl that comes to catch the moths around the light. So I do leave offerings there, and you can really notice the difference when you do leave offerings. It's nice things happen to you. I have, protection, and you saw the bird skull that was left at my front gate. I feel like that was a gift from Hecate. I've actually cured that, and I was going to put it on my staff, but it's really delicate. I'll get it and show everyone. Show and tell.
Yay! I love show and tell. Actually, while she's doing that at school, the kids made like in the playground, they made a little fairy grove.
Oh, beautiful. I like doing that.
Yeah.
Granddaughters have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. I'm just kneeling on the floor. Okay, get myself comfortable again. Here we go. It's a little,
Oh, it's delicate, isn't it?
so
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, you can see where a creature has tried to eat the back of the
Mm.
skull.
Mm.
But that doesn't matter to me. But I've cleaned it up, and because one of my animal birds is an actual eagle. Okay, so that's a hawk by the looks of the beak, a kite.
Mm.
Yeah, so lovely. Hecate, gift from Hecate.
Mm.
So there
That's
we go.
amazing.
Can't put it on my staff. It's just so delicate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, break it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Actually, you're freaking me out, Freya, because this morning I heard all the crows going crazy, and there's actually a dead crow in the gutter, and so I called the council because they come and pick up dead animals, because I didn't really, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, there's a dead crow in between my house and the neighbours. So, would you consider that a gift from Hecate, or just a natural bird killing? Oh God.
Well,
Well, animals do die. But
They do die, don't they?
and I would be looking at it as the end of one thing and the beginning of another.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a natural progression.
Hmm.
And if you wanted to, you could, take a few feathers if you wanted to. Ask the bird spirit. I just wait till they leave me things. I don't go out and kill things or, anything like that. I just wait for nature to give them to me.
Yes.
But that's really special to be gifted that, I think.
Yes.
It was all yucky when I found it. It still had like flesh and ants all over it.
Mm.
Yeah. Nature did the job for me, most of the job cleaning it up. I soaked it.
Mm.
I soaked it in ammonia and washing up detergent for about a month, and then I got an old toothbrush and scrubbed it clean.
You're very brave.
That's it on my altar with Hecate.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting back to the subject.
If you do want to work with like connecting to animals in that shamanic context, and you do find a dead animal on the side of the road, like a bird or something like that, you can always take the feathers. I mean, this is something that I've done, especially in my earlier days when I was sort of more on the shamanic side. Yes, take the feathers and then bury the bird. Make sure you remember where you've buried it, and then about 4 to 6 weeks later, if you dig it up, you'll find that nature has taken care of all the flesh and everything, and that you'll be able to then clean up the skeleton and then use the skull or anything like that to connect with the spirit of the animal if you're doing any animal work.
The Indigenous do that with the turtle shells. They bury it on the beach to get the turtle shells clean.
Mm.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you could do any of that, and probably a couple of years ago, just behind me, I was on the back deck here reading a book, and out of the corner of my eye, just something fell to the ground, and it was a massive crow, just dead, stone cold dead on the spot. Beautiful feathers, like everything about it would say it was in the prime of its life. No other birds around, didn't understand what happened. And I just picked it up, and I didn't know that you could do all of that. So I thought I better just put it in the bin and get rid of it, because all of a sudden just crows from all around just started to fly in, land, and it was like a murder of crows all around me. And I thought, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I've done nothing to your crow.
I can relate to that. Yes.
I hear that crows, if one of their kin dies, that they will gather around, and it's almost like that. And sometimes they will put things over, like twigs and things over the other crow, like a burial. So it's like they have a ceremony.
Well, I was attracted to the crows, and that I'm thinking, gee, they're so loud, and then I found out why. So yeah, but yeah, as you say, Freya, it's the cycle. Yeah,
Yeah.
life, death. Yeah,
And you could be looking at the Morrigan too.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
Crows
with
mean
the-
change.
oh,
So there's changes. No, there's definitely change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Ooh.
Mm.
I have a crow story. This was at Nissa when we lived there, and my family came to visit, and I was on the beach with my sister. My father was there having a holiday with us too, and I was down in the water swimming, and my sister come running down to me. I've got 4 sisters. Come running down to me like, Freya. And she was going, there's a crow up there, and it was calling out your name. And I was going, okay, all right. But that night, my father had a stroke. But luckily, he was okay. It was a TIA, so it's only a small stroke. But that was the signs of his heart going from there. I feel like he went downhill from that time. But that was a sign of change in the family's life. I've always had crows around, but I've never necessarily looked at them or haven't had any really strong spiritual happenings besides that. But a lot of my family have crow guide animals, yeah. So I always know when there's family around when there's crows. And yeah, so that's a crow story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they give you signs, so take notice.
Well,
They do.
it's certainly been a murder, but I'm hoping the change is that I start winning things. Let's hope for positive change.
Crow changes. It depends on I find for me, it's where how the crow's flying, as to what the change is like or when the change is happening, if it's coming from the future, or if it's change that's happened, or if it's change that you're in. But it's definitely about change, and often the change isn't a comfortable experience with a crow message.
Oh man.
So yeah, it usually,
I'm optimistic. Come on.
well, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I mean,
Oh.
an uncomfortable change can generally
Yeah.
bear really great fruit. It's just
Yeah.
it's challenging, and you
Yeah,
have to go
sure.
through sometimes that discomfort in
Ah.
order to get to the fruit.
I just want fairy
Yeah.
groves. I just want, fairies. And
Yeah, they call for your strength.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I am strong, so
Yeah.
I better start working out again.
Yeah, so that is something that I've found definite about a crow, is that it will definitely, it heralds change, and that sometimes that change is a very difficult change. Other times it's one you've already gone through.
Yeah.
It just depends really on the circumstances,
Mhm.
but change is definitely the message. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Does
a
anyone
permanent
else
change, I'd
use
say. If it's a dead crow, it'd be a
Yes,
permanent
yes,
change.
yeah. That makes sense to me. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense.
I have a question
Does
about working.
anyone else use it? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
My question was just working with deities. How do you recommend choosing a deity to work with?
They tend to choose you, I've found. So unless you're wanting to work on something specific and you want to work with a deity to help you with that task or that spell or whatever it is that you're working with, if in that case you could ask for a deity to become present for you, to help you with whatever it is that you're doing, and see where you're led. So you might be in a store and you see a statue, or somebody points out a statue for you that might be a connection to that deity, or might be that deity. You might be on the internet and something might come up on a social media post or something that's connected to that deity. Or you may even just go and do some research on a deity, and one will particularly jump out at you that will work with whatever it is that you're wanting to do. So there are different ways that you can work with them, but put the call out first and see which deity comes to you.
Okay, thanks.
Because sometimes we think that a deity is the deity that is our matron or patron, or that deity sounds cool, or that deity sounds like, you know, they're really the hip deity to work with. But often that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the right one. So you might find one that comes completely left of field, who you've never worked with before, who maybe you've never even heard of before, ends up there, and you know, okay, yes, there's something about this deity. I'm getting a sense I need to explore and work with this deity, even though I've never heard of them before, or I have no idea what they're doing there. But if they've turned up, then they've got something for you.
Yeah, watch out for the ones when you're meditating and they're like banging your face, you know, and yeah, and it's not always, it's a little bit of a shock when you first see them at first. Kernana scared me. This was even before I got into Wicca or anything like that, but that was at the beginning of witchcraft. That was years ago. And I was scared because of the Christian connotations of the devil and all of that kind of thing. And I thought, oh no, I'm a bad person. What's happened? I've called up this creature man, you know, because it was like he was half creature. He was like the horn god. He was the horn god, the, you know, archetypal vision that we all see, except he was really tall. And I was asleep. He actually woke me up, and he was standing there beside the bed, you know. And Ellen of the Way showed up like that too. She just walked in, and she was a bit scary looking. She was more like a kind of mate to Kernana through what I saw from that. And then the elves, they show up, and yeah, it was only recently I saw my daughter's elf at their place, and yeah, that's a mischievous one, that one, with a good humour. Like the kids, they're all mischievous, but yeah, they show up to you. They just show up. So, and accept when they come, just accept it and see what they have to teach you, and just let them reveal themselves, because you got to get your own mind out of the way, I feel, because you don't want to impose on them your psychology. So you try and stay neutral as you can, so that it's like meeting a whole new person. You go and you meet a new person, and if you've been told nothing about them, you're going totally neutral, and you've got to assess who they are, what they're about, and what they're going to bring to you in your life. And you go from there and judge it from there. And it, for me, especially Kernanus is there a lot, and he's a protector, and I can feel when there are bad people around through him. And he first showed me fear, because that was how I met him, through fear. And he was saying, don't be afraid of fear, because fear's put there to show you what the energy is. People can be afraid of fear itself, the feeling of fear. They're scared of that, rather than looking at the actual happening or what's around you to be fearful of. So when I feel that element energy coming through, it does feel heavy for me. It's not dark and it's not black. It feels like beware. And this is important because he's the god of the land, the nature and animals and all of that. Animals run on instinct. They have to be on guard all the time in the wild to look after themselves. It's natural, it's instinct. And that's the kind of energy that runs through the animals, and that's the kind of energy that runs through when you're in a protective mode, when you've been, sensing danger around. That's that kind of energy, and that's if you really love animals, you can understand the fear that goes through them when they're around anything that's at threat. Okay, yeah, so I'm rambling on, but that's my experience. Yeah, so I'm still learning everything, so I learn from everyone around me, and yeah, I'll shut up now.
That's good. Thanks, Freya. That's really. It's just good to have insight into how other people experience deities and to work with deities. My first encounter really with working with a deity probably was the Green Man. Actually, was Cernunnos back in would have been the 90s, and it was just through seeing him in the imagery of a beautiful fig tree that was in the backyard, and it was on the morning of an initiation in the coven that I was in at the time. So it wasn't my initiation, it was in the next group after me. But it was just that connection with I guess the rest of the day that was really potent. So there's for me that set up a connection with the God aspect in the form of Cernunnos. But I didn't really work with a deity until I was exploring Buddhism, and Tara, Green Tara particularly, showed up for me, and I worked with her for quite some time. And it was kind of weird that I found the deity when I was working within a Buddhist context, not a Wiccan context. But now that I came back to the craft, I can see how I had to go down that road in order to meet her, because she was a really good introduction for me of how to actually work with the deity, with the chanting, because in Buddhism, they've got such beautiful processes and practices to work with different deities that we've lost, of course, over a Christian background. And so it sort of taught me how to use mantra and how to use the imagery that they use to be able to connect with deities. And so that was very, very powerful and very helpful. But since then, I've been working with Hecate. She turned up herself, and then just recently, Alan of the Waves has showed up. So I'm working with her, and I never really knew who she was.
So Tara, is she an Indonesian?
She's Indian. So she comes from the Indian Buddhism. In Tibet, I think they call her Dolma, but she's the same deity. So in Indian Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, particularly Tibetan Buddhism, they work a lot with her. She's got 21 manifestations. So there's different names for the 21 Taras.
Yes. I saw the statue at the Abbey Museum, and I've noticed from a lot of people that they will get their vision, if you like, when they're in nature, which makes absolute sense, especially a green man. For me, I've never really experienced that, but I've gone a lot to libraries and walked along the shelves in mythology and just picked a book that resonates, open up the page and, oh, okay, this is about Odin, Norse mythologies, So there's a lot of books like, which show the ancient mythologies from different cultures. So at the moment, I'm actually reading Neil Gaiman. He retells the mythologies from Odin, and of course it's a theme through all cultures, as you say. So you've got Tara, the goddess. So for me, they don't really materialize like for you and Freya. For me, it's usually I'll go to a library or a museum and I'll get a fixation on something, or I'll read something, and then I'll start more researching it, I guess. Yeah.
They'll come to you in the way that you can perceive them. So being the librarian, being somebody who tends to be naturally more geared towards doing that, then they'll come in a way that you can understand them.
Yeah.
So they'll take whatever avenue they can to get your attention. So if it's in a library with books, then they'll show up there.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so that was dating. I also did have a question, wasn't really a question about when doing the energy work and the experience of having the crown chakra opening up and tingling in the scalp area doing the energy work. I find for me the tingling tends to happen more with the hands, not so much with my chakras, but different people experience different openings when doing energy work. So it's just interesting if anybody want to share, if you want to share often what you feel when you're doing energy work.
Yes, sometimes I'll get all over goosebumps. It's all over. And there's been certain points, or sometimes it's places that I've been, or I'll just speak with something or somebody and we'll have a conversation, and whatever they said might resonate, that it just goes straight through me, like goosebumps all over. So that, you know, all the songs about goosebumps and whatever, it completely makes sense, because sometimes you'll be somewhere in nature and it'll give you just goosebumps all over.
Yeah, I get goosebumps too. Usually if it's random, that spirit energy bumping up against me when I'm doing healing work, and especially even doing readings, because I'm ecstatic with the healing work. I go hot, and I can feel the energy going out of my hands and my feet, so there's grounding energy there. I can get the tingles in the chakras, depending on which chakras open at the time, but I love it when the crown opens. I love getting those tingles. But you can also, it just means that chakra in that area is open. And yeah, I think I spoke once more about sometimes that you can actually feel a little bit of a tingle, and it just, it's like a, you know, just like a flick on your skin, you know, like that. Sometimes I'll get that down around the base chakra when opening with that. That's when I know that the two of them are in alignment. Sometimes I can get those kind of tingles through the breast area, okay, and that's just an opening. So your whole body opens to spirit, your whole body opens to that energy field. And the only thing I can say to anyone who's asked any questions about it is to just go with the flow. Don't try to direct it, and let it happen, and then you can actually ask questions later or look into it later, research it later. Just experience in the now and then do your research later with that, and that's how you can learn about yourself, with all of this that I find.
And recording it somehow, if you want to write it down or verbally record it so that you can come back to it later as well. I've found that there's things I've experienced in the past that I've totally forgotten about. When I've gone back into past journals years later, it's like, oh, okay. And then somehow that going back at that time and reading about what I experienced at that time somehow corresponds to what I'm experiencing now in the present moment. So it's like keeping that your own little Akashic record.
Yeah, and it's fractal patterns, isn't it? You know, like in nature, the fractals. And so people like Greg Braden, they will write about fractal time within your own timeline, and that if you map out your life, you'll see your certain patterns repeat and so on. Yeah,
it's fun to do.
For myself, the first time I ever had a healing experience, a woman said, "Kevin, your hands are really hot." I didn't feel it. I didn't feel that energy. She said, "Your hands are really hot. Put them on my back and pray for me." And her back was healed, you know, even 10 years later. She's just like, thank you, Kevin, for that time. And like that, you prayed for my back. And then another time I was doing some breath work and we were all laying on our backs, just doing the breath work. And I just didn't know what the energy was. I felt this energy in my hands, and I just could feel like these orbs of energy, like growing in my hands and getting like this big. And that was the first time I really felt that energy that I was holding in my hands. And then eventually I did learn Reiki. And so, yeah, nowadays I will feel energy, like I will feel it in my hands. Sometimes it just, my hands feel hot. And energy comes, yeah, sometimes it's through my feet, sometimes it's coming out of my face. And it's just like very, like, I just feel heat going out. So that's how I experience that.
Yeah, great.
Mm. Yeah, it's pretty amazing, especially for people who are just starting out and haven't experienced energy before. Some people experience it straight away. Other people, it takes time to experience the energy. But it's really, it's a feeling. It's a kinesthetic feeling of either heat or pulsing, tingling, spiky. Sometimes, like those little. You ever been to the physio and they've put those sort of little vibrating needly type thing that feels like that? Yeah.
I've also felt it as, you know, when you have like two magnets and they're polar opposites and they don't quite ever go together, but you can feel that resistance. I get that feeling, and it'll be in different spots. It'll be bigger or smaller, and you can just feel the resistance. And I generally like, yeah, that to me makes me feel like that's the energy I feel, and just how maybe open that chakra point is, or where they, or that healing point is. You know, if it's closer, it might need more work than when it's broader. But yeah, that's probably more what I notice most.
Yeah. There's a number of different ways that people experience the sensation, but they're, yeah, when the chakras are opening, and maybe even when you're observing yourself, how do you experience fear? Like if you're afraid of something or anticipating something, do you feel a tingling in the root chakra area, or do you feel something going on in the solar plexus chakra? Just taking notice of where you feel the energy when you're experiencing different emotional events or different things, so that you know which chakras are either opening or whether they're closing, or whether there's resistance there, and experiencing how the energy is flowing in your body. Okay, so yeah, that was that for questions.
I just had another, I guess, question or something I keep getting drawn back to, and I must Google it just way too much because it just keeps coming up on my feed. But about using different plants and planting different plants in your garden that can aid in, you know, even medicine or tinctures and oils and all that sort of stuff. And more recently, it was about yarrow. And I know, Sandra, right at the beginning, you talked a little bit of, I think you mentioned yarrow. So when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, I should plant this. I should get this. And then it's not great for animals, you know, so I've got dogs, so that apparently it's not good for them. But is there anything you would recommend, or anyone recommends, that are some, you know, key essentials that you could plant that is animal friendly, but also can be used in your own either magic or even just in teas and for your own health and well-being?
Yeah, well, I grow peppermint, and that's magic for tea, and it needs a lot of water and light, and I love just the basics, you know, so parsley, but it's me versus the possums, because the possums just so yeah, just the basics of parsley, rosemary. I love rosemary. And if you're worried about the dogs pulling them out, what I've ended up doing is getting a crate and just putting my basic basil, rosemary, parsley, and then I've just got some wire over the top with things to hold it down. Yeah. Oh, lemongrass for tea. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if you really want to grow yarrow, because it is a pretty easy herb to grow, maybe putting something over it and making it sort of dog proof. I know dogs dig and stuff like that, but you can make it dog proof, or have it somewhere where the dog, maybe in a pot or something, up high away from the dog.
Yeah, a potted plant somewhere in the where it gets enough light.
Yeah, because if you're drawn to the plant, if the yarrow plant's coming up for you, then it probably is, it could be like a spirit plant for you, like a spirit animal, having a spirit plant.
Well, I read a lot on, I think it's a foraging group, but they often talk about all the different weeds or things that are considered weeds are really wonderful to have in your garden and to use for their medicinal purposes. So they also talked about, like, I think dandelions and how great they are for just soil cultivation. So in all those things, I just find are all linked, as that what we consider weeds and start ripping out, it can actually be just wonderful additions to you know, how we live and our health and happiness.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and just the basics. Basil. I don't know about how. I'm not quite sure about dogs and different herbs because I don't have a dog. I know that with cats don't tend to chew on plants like dogs do, but things like lilies and that you have to keep away from if you've got cats, because even the sap of them is very poisonous. But yeah, you're just your basics. Basil's a great herb to have. Probably reasonably, depends on the type of basil, how easy it is to grow. Rosemary grows like a weed, so it's pretty hardy. It's you can use that medicinally for your own health as an antiseptic. You can use it to smudge your area. If you're wanting to use rosemary instead of sage to cleanse an area, put it in a floor wash, put it in the bath. Rosemary's just a good all-round herb. Fennel. Yeah, there's the basics, but whatever is animal friendly, I guess. Just do the research there. And the possums, of course, will also have to be taken into consideration because they do like to feast.
Yeah, I know. And just by the by, sometimes it's hard to get good seeds. I mean, I propagate stuff from the grocery market, but that's really yucky anyway. There used to be a company, I hope they're still around, called Eden Seeds, like the Garden of Eden, and they're supposed to be pure seeds. So you could maybe Google Eden Seeds if they're still going.
Yeah. Because I really wanted to try and do some sage, but to I think get white sage is quite like I can get it, but can I grow the thing? No, I'm not so great at growing.
Yeah, sage can be tricky. Yeah, I've had trouble with sage. Thyme's beautiful too. I love thyme. I love the smell of thyme.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on what aspect your garden's in, the sun.
Yeah.
Some things I don't have a lot of luck growing much here because we're just facing the wrong direction. So it's very difficult to grow anything that's not really, really hardy. Yeah. The rosemary grows great.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of rosemary growing. It's about the only thing I can't kill.
That's good.
Yeah, lavender's pretty good too to have.
It goes in waves. Like sometimes if it takes, it goes really well, and then one little thing can change and it's gone. Yeah. I do love the jasmine. The smell of the jasmine,
yes,
I really, really like. But yeah.
Beautiful. Well, good luck and happy growing.
Thank you.
No, I met a lady who's moved here from New Zealand and she kept quizzing me about mushrooms. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not very knowledgeable about psychedelics.
We do have a lot of cows here.
Okay, mushrooms, oh my God, yeah. Oh. Anyway, it'd be fun, but you'd have to know what you're doing. You might kill yourself,
Yeah, you have to know the different types of mushrooms, that's for sure. Yeah. But we do have those special mushrooms, particularly around southeast Queensland because of the humidity and the cow manure. It's perfect environment, especially after it's done a lot of rain and there's been a lot of heat.
Yeah,
Mm.
I just directed her to the hippie colony up Mullaney.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
no.
They'd know. They'll know. Not that we're professing to do anything illegal if it's
no.
illegal in your country. Just general knowledge,
Yeah,
education.
absolutely.
Okay, so it's 10:30. Does anybody want to jump in with anything quickly? Quick question, quick observation?
I'm just curious, like since we brought up psychedelics and mushrooms, having experimented with that before in the past, the journeys that I've gone on, like closing my eyes, I'll see stuff and I'll be like traveling and going through landscapes and just have different experiences, like all different kinds of experiences. Is that a completely different way of seeing things than like people who are in tune like with their third eye being open, or being able to like people seeing things? Is that like a different way that people see things, or like people who are like psychic or see things in their mind's eye, like would it be different than psychedelics or similar?
It's probably very similar. Some people are naturally very, very good at getting visions. Like they are very naturally very visionary people, and they don't need much help in regards to psychedelics. They could even just have a smell of some star anise and off they go on a trip. But for a lot of people, the psychedelics just help open up the third eye and make it a lot easier to go traveling. The tricky part is remembering the journey and recording the journey, because when I guess even if you've gone on one more organically, you can still forget things. But yeah, it's just that some people are very good at it and don't need the psychedelics. But from what I've heard from people who are like that, because I'm not one of those visionary people, it does sound very similar. Yes. Yeah.
There is a Russell Brand video. If you search through the Russell Brand videos, there'd be one on why they've suppressed the knowledge, the scientific knowledge that they've gained from studying psychedelics.
And the consciousness, the fact that they can help with raising consciousness and raising awareness, because you go on these journeys to the other realms of consciousness. And of course, that then means that you become a more conscious being, and that's always been suppressed. It's been suppressed for a long time. So hence another reason why they're illegal.
Yeah, the chemical parts of your brain which really haven't been activated. So yeah, that's what it's doing. It's working other parts of your brain.
And perception, it's helping you perceive the world differently to how we've learned to perceive the world. And we see there's a lot more out there, because you can see the same thing when you're under the influence. Like you might still see the same environment, but the brain will start to pick up different, it'll interpret things differently. Like you'll start to see living beings in the rocks. So the rocks, instead of just being a rock, the rock actually becomes a conscious being. You can almost see the being in the rock, or the tree. You can actually see the tree spirit in the tree. It opens up your perception.
So just in relation to that then, when I hear about, say, people who, and when they drink, it's not necessarily, it can actually be something that can suppress your opening of your third eye. And then I also hear about, people who have taken illicit drugs and then they become increasingly violent for their reality that is around them at the time, is met with a lot of violence and anger. So how do all those mesh? Is it because of the substance they've taken? So there are some substances that create a reality or open to a span that is a dimension that is maybe more dangerous, or is it just that it's not real entirely, so it's something else entirely? And how do you tell the difference between a natural and a non-natural way if you're going into those realities, I guess?
You always bring where you are with you. So often people, a lot of people will go, say, over to South America to do the ayahuasca with the shamans. Might be because they're experiencing a lot of negativity in their own lives, maybe a lot of depression or anxiety. So some people go over there to try and deal with whatever it is that's causing that. You always will bring yourself to your journeys. So whether you're going on a shamanic journey with just a drum and some incense, or whether you are having some assistance from plants, you're still going to bring where you are with you. So if you've got a lot of stuff going on in your own psyche, the experience may not be the most pleasant experience, because all of that's going to come up as well from the subconscious mind. So it's always important that you do actually go, if you're going on a journey, the best thing is to go on a journey with a guide, someone there who's there can help you. So if you get stuck, they can go throw you in a tub of cold water or something and bring you back, because some trips are not very pleasant, but that can happen even with just a normal journey that you're doing without having plant medicine. So it depends where you are and what other beings may be around, because it's some people who are in a very negative state of mind or state of being will often attract more negative entities and spirits as well. So if you're going on a journey, then they may also be there and you may pick them up. So it's really important to try and be clean and try to be sort of as pure as you can in your own energy before you go on a trip like that, because you want to be connecting to a higher vibration and not getting stuck with all of the icky, yucky stuff.
Yeah.
So is there a difference between somebody taking a natural hallucinogen to, say, some of the synthetics, like what are they called? Like, is it ice or LSD? I don't know. All the different ones, but they're more synthetic based. So are they just wouldn't even get you to the pathway they always would end up in, I guess, that negative, because that's where you come from, maybe a negative space. I don't understand the difference between the two, and why some people would be saying, you know, this way is okay, but not this way.
You're looking at it shamanically. The plants have a spirit. So when you go on a journey with a plant, you're going on a journey with that spirit. So the spirit of the plant is taking you on the journey. So a lot of people speak about Mother Ayahuasca, and they really feel that feminine presence of Mother Ayahuasca taking them on a journey. If it is another type of like psilocybin, it's the spirit associated with the mushroom or the spirit associated with the cannabis plant. This being, the spirit, is taking you on the journey. So there's that organic connection with the earth spirit. It's a very earthy spirit when you're dealing with the plants. I haven't taken anything chemical, so I don't know what to compare that with.
Yeah.
What
So
it would be like,
if,
but I do hear people say there's a difference.
Okay, so if, I'm sorry, I'm asking lots of questions because I don't understand it all, but if even to create a synthetic, it has to come from something organic. Like everything comes from something else and it's transformed in different ways. So in essence, is the transformative process, or is it like when people talk about getting a tattoo, it's not just the tattoo itself, but it's often the what people put into the tattoo, but the person who designs it or the person who draws it, they can leave some of their own energy in it. So is it kind of like that, I guess, that transference process, that the more it becomes drawn away from its original source and who's had touch points along the way affects, I guess, the overall outcome and what you may then experience from it, potentially?
Possibly, yeah, because what these substances do is they seem to create, they tap into the DMT, so it's that part of the brain. So they'll still open up that part of the brain, and so you'll still can have those experiences and the perception. I'm just wondering how organic it is. Like if you're working with a plant, as I said, you've got that extra, the spirit there working with you, whereas with the chemical, it's really just opening up those aspects of the brain for you. and I don't know what the difference would be. I know they did a lot of experiments back, I think it was in the 1960s with LSD, with psychology. And of course, they're doing those experiments again now because they found it incredibly helpful for things like PTSD and other mental health conditions. But they're on the journey with a psychologist there, as you would if you were doing it organically with a shaman there, helping you with the journey. They always have somebody there helping in case something goes wrong.
And things like medical cannabis, I mean, that would show statistic-wise that it's undeniable that assists people, you know, with acute pain and end of life. So yeah, statistic-wise, that would prove that that's far more beneficial, say, to ice, because you hear what happens. People become more and more violent, and they become more and
Well,
more.
they're not hallucinogens. They're not entheogens. They're a different kind of drug category. You would not take those substances to go on a shamanic journey. You would only work with the hallucinogens. They're the ones that the shamans would work with. So the chemical, you'd be looking at DMT and probably LSD, or the plant-based like the psilocybin mushrooms. If you're into drinking deer urine, then you could probably safely go the Amanita, but and you know, the various other like these peyote in the American Indians, and they're a particular class of what they call drug. But anything like methamphetamines or anything like that, heroin or any of that stuff, that's not, you don't use that.
No, that's chemical induced.
That's to escape life. It's not to actually embrace it. They're totally different. Yeah, don't get the two confused.
No.
Yeah, they're totally different class of drug. And from a shamanic or from a spiritual point of view, you would not go near those other drugs because they're going to probably lead you down a very dark path, because they tend to enhance the ego, whereas the others are working more on the spiritual side of it. So yeah, don't get the two mixed up.
I will disclose, a few years ago, many years ago, I actually had an E, okay, and because I already see auras, after I had this E, I was at a party, and these I was just seeing, every time I went into the light, I was seeing everyone's auras. And I like it so that when I see auras, they flash in and out as a person expresses themselves. So I don't get overloaded with that. I opened up so much that I was just seeing auras just straight up. So I found myself having to stay in the shadows all night, not to stir up the vision of seeing the auras. So for me, I will say that it enhanced the third eye energy of what I already see. So it enhanced that. But because that was a chemical, I didn't like what it did to my body the next day. It was I felt yucky, and I've never had it ever since. And I don't take drugs, okay? A little bit of Dr. Pot every now and again doesn't hurt anyone, you know, especially if you've got a lot of inflammation. I have arthritis. Okay, so don't mind Dr. Pot sometimes. But marijuana can make you very sensitive to energies around, so it's easy to open up with that. So when I do have that, I have it very modulated. I don't smoke to get stoned or anything like that. I get to have it to just help ease that pain, and it can help you lift your vibrations. You've got to use it right, and that's part of what's wrong with society these days, with all of the younger generations taking drugs, because what they do, they actually abuse it and take more than the body actually needs. When you're talking about, Sandra, with ayahuasca and taking those substances with a guide, they know how to use it, they know how to modulate it, so that the person who's taking it is getting the best experience for their body, and they would know if someone's sensitive to, you know, they would know how much to dose someone with it.
Yeah. And it's not taken recreationally. It's not a recreational thing. It's taken as serious work. So you don't take it at a party. Like, you're not going to take any of those plant medicines to go to a party or even to go outside. You're going to be in a contained environment so that you actually do go on a journey. And it's a way of making it sacred. And the way that people abuse drugs is that they don't make them, they're not sacred at all. They're just a way to escape reality. But it's not about escaping reality. You want to actually face it.
Yes. And that's when we're talking about when people take these chemical drugs and then they go into these rages and things, it's because they're actually abusing it and they're sitting with their energy at a lower vibration. And when they're on a lower vibration, all of those negative entities attach. And it's a horrible thing. I don't like being around environments like that. Again, that's where the Kunanas energy comes in. I can feel that danger around of what it is dangerous to people. It doesn't come along and slapping their head, but over the long term, what it actually does to your vibrational field, it's nasty. It's a thing. And it is.
It's very very, very negative, and it just sends you down a dark path, which can be very difficult to come back up from.
It plays holes in the aura.
It does,
Dark holes, and that's where the entities attach, and they affect the people's minds with it. It's awful.
It's a way of going into madness, true madness.
Yeah, because they lose touch with reality. When you use, like ayahuasca and like me seeing auras and everything like that, that's working from a whole other perspective and level where you're actually using it in a positive way, so it enhances the mind. We're not, when you use it in that negative way, and that's where ego will take people to. I feel like that's where Aleister Crowley went wrong, because they let that dark energy manifest and interfere with what their aims were to start off with. Because every time someone mentioned, I don't even like looking at Aleister Crowley, I just get really negative vibrations around his image. And, the saying goes that you can have, bad people can have pieces of good in them and something wise to say. And that's where people get sucked into following them down the wrong path, because
Aleister Crowley went down the goat track, really, but even though he had some brilliant, he wrote some very brilliant things and had some brilliant insight, he was so determined to try to force what he was trying to get was God to punish him. He wanted to almost prove the wrath of God. And so he went down this dark path and did everything he could possibly imagine that would be sinful. And then at the end of it all, when he was on his deathbed, he realized that it was a total waste of time. And I guess in many ways, looking at his life is like, you don't have to go down that track, because he's already gone down there and he's shown you what it is, and you don't want to go down that track. So he's a good example of where not to go. Even though he was very brilliant and had some brilliant ceremonies and brilliant connections. He could have been brilliant had he not have had the upbringing that he had, I guess, and his ego was so huge that he was quite narcissistic. I think he was a narcissist, but that got the better of him.
Destructive. So anyway, I'm glad for Kunanas, who's like, he has this way of calling you back on track. Because, not afraid to recognize the shadows, but keeping you on the right side of the shadow. So because you can be filled thinking that you can be slipping into a shadow place when you're thinking that it's okay and there's light. It's, you know, how, because there's no direct borderline, is there, between light and shadow? It's, you know, gradual. And I suppose that's what people call grey, a grey area. So, and it's not to say you're sitting in grey all the time, or you're sitting in dark all the time, or you're sitting in light all the time. It's where you are on that vibrational level and what you want to do with your life, and being most, living up to your highest potential. That's what it's all about. And you need a lot of light to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've got to have a lot of knowledge of yourself and know a lot about yourself and explore yourself and be willing to be brave and face those darker parts of the self in order to be able to not get swayed by the darker stuff outside of the self. Okay, so it was a really wonderful new moon. Good way to start the year, I think.
Psychedelic.
Good to see you all, and
Yes.
we'll be back again in 2 weeks for the full moon in Aries. I think it is. Is it? Are we up to Aries yet? No, not full moon Aries. Full moon Leo. I think it's Leo the next full moon. Yeah, I get confused. I have no idea where we are.
Yeah, it is around there. I can't, I'm looking at the wall, there's a moon chart over where I work. It looks like it's in Leo. It's
It'll be
around,
Leo, I think. I think it's Leo.
yeah,
Aquarius is the next new moon coming up, and I think it's going that way, so it must be Leo, because Leo is opposite Aquarius.
so is that the 20th? Or can I see? Anyway, we'll
Yeah.
work.
We'll work it out. Anyway, we'll see you all then.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bless
Blessed be.
everyone.